Hello and welcome to this edition of News on the Hour. I'm Rukma with you, and over the next 1 hour, we'll be taking you over all the stories that are making headlines across India and the world. We'll also be trying to connect with our reporters on the ground. But first, let's take a look at the top stories we're tracking at this hour. Natanz nuclear facility of Iran hit by blackout. The day after it unveils new uranium enrichment equipment, Iran describes blackout as an act of nuclear terrorism by Israel. Netanyahu says fight against Iran's nuclearization is a massive task. Jordan's King Abdullah and Prince Hamza make their first joint appearance since a rift shook the country. Royals attend ceremony marking 100 years of independence. BAFTA announces prestigious awards. Chloe Zhao directed Nomadland, scoops Best Picture, Director, Actress and Cinematography. Frances McDormand wins Best Actress BAFTA for Nomadland. Anthony Hopkins wins Best Actor for The Father. Tributes paid to late Bollywood actors Irfan Khan and Rishi Kapoor. England to ease lockdown restrictions from today. Non-essential retail shops, gyms, swimming pools and salons set to reopen. 32 million in the UK have received at least one dose of a coronavirus vaccine. Back home, second day of Tika Utsav. Today, day one sees workplace vaccination centers in operation. Over 27,50,000 doses given yesterday. Cumulative vaccination reaches 10 crore, 45 lakhs. Health Ministry says India to have 5 more COVID vaccines by October. Sputnik expected to get emergency use nod in 10 days. India bans export of antiviral drug Remdesivir. Amid surge in COVID cases, Maharashtra sees highest ever 63,000 cases. Delhi, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and now also see case resurgence. Meanwhile, campaigning is on in full swing for the 5th phase of assembly elections in West Bengal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address multiple rallies. Home Minister Amit Shah to campaign in Darjeeling. Mamata Banerjee to also woo voters with her rallies. Second Shahi Snaan of Maha begins today in Haridwar under COVID-19 protocols. 13 akharas carry processions. Saints and devotees take dip in the holy Ganga at Har Ki Pauri on the auspicious occasion. And now for our top story. India has been scaling multiple peaks in the effort to contain the COVID-19 virus. The cumulative number of COVID vaccine doses administered stands at 10 crore 45 lakhs 28,565. This has been achieved across 15 lakh 55,837 sessions. A total of 29 lakh 33,000, more than 33,000 vaccine doses were given on Sunday, the 86th day of the nationwide COVID-19 vaccination process. And let's now take a look at COVID-19 updates from across the country. As per the Union Health Ministry, 75,086 recoveries were made in the past 24 hours, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients to 1 crore 21 lakh 56,529. With this, the recovery rate currently stands at 89.86%. India's total active case load stands at over 12.1 lakhs today. The country's present active case load consists of 8.88% of total positive cases. The fatality rate stands at 1.26%. Moreover, as many as 25 crore 78 lakh 6,986 samples have been tested for COVID-19 so far. According to the Department of Health Research, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare on 11th April, 11 lakh 80,136 samples have been tested for COVID-19. And Maharashtra on Sunday reported 63,294 positive COVID cases, the highest ever. 34,008 patients were discharged on Sunday. Total patients recovered and discharged in the state stand at 27 lakhs 82,161. The recovery rate in Maharashtra stands at 81.65%. 349 COVID-19 deaths were reported in the state on Sunday. The case fatality rate in the state is 1.7%. Currently, 31,75,585 people are in home quarantine and 25,694 people are in institutional quarantine. So far, there are 5,65,587 active cases in the state. And amid an unprecedented surge in coronavirus cases, Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray held a meeting with the task force and discussed several urgent issues, which include setting up of oxygen generation plants, upgrading number of beds and other medical facilities, besides availability of Remdesivir injections. A standard operating procedure will be prepared as it is necessary to break the chain of the virus. On the vaccination front, the Chief Minister has instructed the expedition of the process of vaccinating health workers in the state. And joining us now is our correspondent Shama Mishra from Mumbai. Well, Shama, when we spoke earlier in the day, you talked about how the vaccination process on the second day is all set to begin. It must have started by now. Give us an update on the response, on the way it is progressing. Also, any more information on the Chief Minister's meeting scheduled for today?
For the fact that people were waiting as even for the second dose schedule, and also for the people who have registered themselves for the first dose. So these people were actually waiting when the doses would come back in stock at various centers, at their nearest centers, because all over in Mumbai and elsewhere also in Maharashtra, there are nearly 3,000 vaccination centers, both private and government run. So people, they were, in their COVID portal or Arogya Setu app, it was showing that their nearest center is so and so, but because of the shortage of the vaccinations, they were not getting the appointment. But now, as we mentioned earlier, that out of the 71 centers in Mumbai itself, 62 would be resuming from today onwards, as they've already been restocked, and people would be, queuing up at their closest destination, at the closest vaccination center. We've already discussed that Maharashtra has crossed the milestone mark of 1 crore vaccinations. More than 1 crore beneficiaries have already been vaccinated till yesterday. And as part of Tika Utsav, we know for the fact that Maharashtra government has instructed that the frontline workers, healthline workers, whoever have been, out of this particular queue, should be vaccinated as fast as possible. Because earlier, in the meeting with the Union Health Minister and other state health ministers, we had seen that in Maharashtra, only 86% of the healthline workers have been given their first doses. So it was necessary to protect them, because as they are the they are the ones who protect people, and they stand in first line of protecting people. Apart from that, the meeting that had been held yesterday, we did see that a clear hint on the lockdown was given, and the meeting is going to be held today, later in the day. And apart from this meeting, we are also going to see that cabinet meeting later in the week would also be held, so that all the SOPs and necessary instructions would be out. State Health Minister Rajesh Tope, he had spoken to the press conference. He had spoken to the press in a press conference after the meeting had been done, and he mentioned that after 14th of April only, the decision of lockdown would be told to people. The announcement would be done only after 14th of April, because till then SOPs would be made, and we are expecting the SOPs would be out in a day or two, so that people would be aware what is going to happen, what all will be working, what all will be shut. Apart from that, medical facilities has to be increased. You've already mentioned that in the meeting yesterday, emphasis was laid on increasing the ICU beds, the oxygen beds and ventilators facilities, because in Maharashtra, we know that more than 27,000 ICU beds are there, but it is 95% totally full. So people in many districts, or almost like 11 to 12 districts, no beds are available. People with their patients are roaming to hospitals, and that is why every district administration is asking people to check with their wards before going out to the hospital. Check with the wards where is the bed facility available, and only then go to that nearest center, because because otherwise they will be just wasting time, and it is a critical time for the patient. So yes, medical facilities have to be ramped up. Apart from that, vaccination drive is also going on for footing. Trying to break the chain is the main concern of the state government, because every day we are seeing more numbers that are coming to the fore, and the major contributors are the city areas like Mumbai, Pune, Thane, Nagpur. These areas are the main contributors to the maximum numbers that keep on rising every day.
Well, Shama, thanks very much for that update. We'll be back with you throughout the day for more. And that was Shama Mishra, our correspondent, reporting from Mumbai on the progress of the vaccination drive there, even as Maharashtra continues to report the highest number of positive cases in a day across the country. Meanwhile, the Delhi government has banned all gatherings except marriages and funerals till the 30th of April due to a rise in COVID-19 cases. All social, political, sports, entertainment, academic, cultural, religious, festival related and other gatherings and congregations have been banned in the city. As per orders issued by Delhi Disaster Management Authority, up to 20 persons are allowed in funerals and last rites related gatherings. Marriage related gatherings are allowed with up to 50 persons. The order said that the restaurants and bars are allowed with up to 50% of seating capacity. Also, Delhi Metro, DTC and intrastate movement of buses will be permitted to run at not more than 50% of the capacity. Cinemas, theatres, multiplexes will be permitted to open with up to 50% seating capacity. And from news related to COVID, we move on to news from poll-bound West Bengal, where campaigning is on in full swing for the fifth phase of assembly elections. Top leaders of various political parties are crisscrossing the poll-bound constituencies in the state. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold multiple election rallies there. Home Minister Amit Shah is also scheduled to hold various election-related programs. 2 road shows and 2 public meetings will take place today. Mamata Banerjee will also woo voters with her rallies. And joining us now is our correspondent Vishal Baristo from West Bengal for all the poll-related news. Vishal, we hear that campaigning is on in full swing. Those visuals clearly say how enthusiastically people seem to be participating in them. Well, Bengal, always known as a state being very politically conscious, the rates of the polling also clearly reveal that that enthusiasm has not dimmed despite COVID protocols. Give us your analysis of all that has happened so far as polling is concerned.
A very good morning to you once again, Rukma. Yes, you said it correctly that people are very much politically conscious here in West Bengal. The fourth phase had 70% of polling, and though it was marked by incidents of violence, a lot of politics has also started on it, with Mamata Banerjee blaming the BJP counter-attacking Home Minister, again attacking Mamata Banerjee. for isolating CRPF, though it was CISF, and it was now the paramilitary forces. That was the call given by Mamata Banerjee. And despite of all these claims, accusations and counter accusations, claims and counter claims, the paramilitary forces are keeping all restraint as far as maintaining law and order in the elections. The fifth phase is now on the 17th of this month. We are halfway through. And Prime Minister is having public rallies in three different places: Bardhaman, Kalyani, and Barasat. Yesterday we saw Home Minister Amit Shah. He held road shows at three places rather, and public rally at one place. So people are coming out in large numbers. Though COVID is a big concern, some kind of precaution is also being maintained by a section of people, but largely people are very much enthusiastic, and we have seen how the protocol is being violated. But now the consciousness is rising as we move further towards the latter half of this election. And remember, we have to have 8 phases of polls in West Bengal, and 4 phases have already gone by. So it's going to be an interesting battle, and it seems that
Right, Vishal. When we talk about issues in this phase, the issues throughout the elections, of course, have been the need for change, the call for change, a bit more freedom on all fronts, as well as infrastructure issues, employment demands, and so on. Are there any new issues dominating? Is there anything particular that you would like to point out as far as issues are concerned for the seats going to polls in this particular phase?
Well, Rukma, it all started off with 4 parties, with Congress aligning with the left. Left has had a long rule in West Bengal. I beg your pardon, before it was dethroned by TMC Mamata Banerjee. But this time the main battle is between the NDA alliance and the TMC, and they are fighting this battle quite bitterly, because the 4th phase saw an incident of violence in which 5 people were killed, and CISF had to resume to firing in self-defense after it was attacked. And the Election Commission has also come down very hard, and it has restricted any politician from entering that area in 24 Parganas. Chitalguchi is the place, and booth number 125 to be precise, where this incident of violence took place. But when we talk about the issues in Bengal, BJP is pressing very hard, and it is asking people that you should vote for BJP so that we can get rid of the cut money. Cut money is very much popular. This is a bribe that you have to pay at every corner, whatever you do in every walk of life. And BJP is also promising double-engine government if it comes to power in Bengal, while TMC is playing on the Bengali Asmita, the pride of Bengal, and TMC is saying that Mamata Banerjee is the daughter of the state. So it's all between BJP and TMC, and it has boiled down to these 2 parties. So the issues are development versus all the corruption and anti-incumbency, while TMC is again and again saying that we have given a very good governance in 2 terms, and we want to continue with that in the 3rd term as well. So it's an interesting battle, while the alliance of Congress and the left seems to have taken the side seat as far as the election battle in the state is concerned.
Right, Vishal. Well, thank you very much for joining us there. So as Vishal tells us, there from West Bengal, from where he's joining us, campaigning on in full swing, and the Prime Minister scheduled to address a number of rallies today. Yesterday it was the Home Minister who was addressing rallies. He's also told us about the issues. Thank you very much for joining us there. Moving on now, campaigning gained momentum for the 5th phase of assembly elections in West Bengal. Top leaders hit the road. BJP senior leader held back-to-back rallies and roadshows in the state. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee also campaigned for her party in Bardhaman.
Campaigning is in full swing for the 5th phase of assembly elections in West Bengal. Top leaders of various political parties are crisscrossing the poll-bound constituencies. The political tussle between BJP and TMC now reached to the heartland of West Bengal. Both the parties are accusing each other for the political violence during assembly campaign. Amid all these slugfests, Union Home Minister and BJP leader Amit Shah held roadshow in Shantipur and Ranaghat Dakshin. He accused Trinamool Congress chief Mamata Banerjee of inciting people against the central forces and doing politics of appeasement even over the deceased.
ममता दीदी ने कुछ ही दिन पहले भाषण किया था कि CIFS, CAPF वाले आए तो उनको घेर लो, उन पर हमला करो। मैं पूछना चाहता हूं ममता दीदी को, एक शार्प सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं कि क्या आपका वो भाषण वो 4 लोगों के मृत्यु के लिए जिम्मेदार नहीं है क्या?
Meanwhile, Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee also held a roadshow in Vardhaman to woo voters in the state. Earlier, she spoke to the family members, those who lost their lives in Kumbh Mela.
What is the job of CISF? Did CISF know how to control the mob?
Election Commission has ordered adjournment of polls at polling station number 126 in Sitalkuchi Assembly constituency of West Bengal amid reports of violence. The poll panel has also ordered that no political leaders to be allowed to enter Kumbh Mela district for 72 hours. Kumbh Mela district comprises of 9 assembly constituencies. The poll panel has also directed ending of poll campaign before 72 hours for the entire 5th phase in the state. Bureau Report, TD India.
And now news about the Kumbh Mela. The second Shahi Snaan of the Maha Kumbh began in Haridwar under COVID-19 protocols. The occasion is Somvati Amavasya, a very auspicious occasion, and processions of 13 akhadas will be carried out through the highways. Elaborate arrangements have been made to ensure COVID protocol. The government has taken out various safety measures in view of COVID-19 for devotees visiting the Kumbh Mela. A negative report of COVID is mandatory for devotees gathering at the Mela in Haridwar. The first Shahi Snaan was held on the 11th of March on the occasion of Maha Shivratri. And a large number of devotees took a dip in the river Ganga at Haridwar early this morning. Pilgrims from different parts of the country, including Haryana, Punjab, Delhi and Western UP, reached Haridwar late last night after registration as per the guidelines of the Mela administration. And time now for a short break, but there's more up ahead here on News on the Hour. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Kitchen waste, green waste, dried leaves from the garden, which are a source of carbon.
The money we received from the government added to our savings all went into the rice mill. I was into athletics before going in for judo, which really attracted me. It is a wonderful sport for girls and very beneficial.
Namaste Land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind.
Zari India.
Salam India. Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Muy
India.
Nahnu Hunud.
India.
Ma Hindi Hasti.
Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching News on the Hour. In international news, Iran has described the blackout at its underground Natanz atomic facility as an act of nuclear terrorism. A nuclear facility in Iran was hit by sabotage a day after it unveiled its new uranium enrichment equipment on Sunday. The country's nuclear chief Ali Akbar Salehi said that Tehran reserves the right to take action against the perpetrators. Early on Sunday, the spokesman for Iran's Atomic Energy Organization had said that a problem with the electrical distribution grid of the Natanz site had caused the blackout. The facility, located in the desert in the central province of Isfahan, is a centerpiece of the country's uranium enrichment program and is monitored by inspectors of the International Atomic Energy Agency. The incident comes at a crucial time in efforts to revive the country's 2015 nuclear deal with Washington. Meanwhile, Israeli public broadcaster Kan, citing unnamed intelligence sources, said that the apparent power outage at the facility was caused by an Israeli cyber operation. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that the fight against Iran's nuclearization is a massive task. Natanz, which was largely built underground to withstand enemy airstrikes, became a flashpoint about Iran's nuclear program in 2002, when satellite photos showed Iran building an underground centrifuges facility at the site. Iran and South Korea say that the two nations hope for a revival of bilateral ties after US sanctions caused a precipitous drop in Iranian exports to South Korea. Speaking after meeting with Iranian Vice President Ishaq Jahangiri, South Korean Prime Minister Chung said that the two countries were trying to swiftly expand bilateral cooperation in any field as soon as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action is revived. Meanwhile, the meeting comes 2 days after Iran released a South Korean ship. The seizure of the tanker in the Strait of Hormuz of Oman in January had triggered a diplomatic dispute after Iran demanded that South Korea release $7 billion in funds frozen in South Korean banks under US sanctions. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the United States is concerned about China's aggressive actions against Taiwan and warned it would be a serious mistake for anyone to try to change the status quo in the Western Pacific by force. Blinken added that the US has a long-standing commitment under the Taiwan Relations Act to ensure that Taiwan has the ability to defend itself and to sustain peace and security in the Western Pacific. Tensions between Washington and Beijing soared as an American warship sailed close to Taiwan. On Friday, the White House said it was keeping a close watch on increased Chinese military activities in the Taiwan Strait and called Beijing's actions potentially destabilizing. Jordan's King Abdullah and former Crown Prince and half-brother Prince Hamza made their first joint appearance at a celebration marking 100 years of Jordan's independence. The royal family laid wreaths at the memorial to martyrs and tombs of royalty in the Raghdan Palace in Amman. Hamza pledged allegiance to King Abdullah late on Monday, following mediation by the royal family. He pledged allegiance 2 days after the military warned him over actions that it said were undermining Jordan's security and stability. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan has said that the country was working for the peaceful resolution of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia over the Donbas region. The Turkish president held talks with his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts on the issue earlier this week. Erdogan reiterated his call for the resolution of the escalating Donbas crisis. Meanwhile, the United States has said that Russia has amassed more troops on Ukraine's eastern border than at any time since 2014. However, Moscow has denied its troops are a threat. In Kyrgyzstan, voters supported a presidential constitutional referendum expanding leader Sadir Japarov's term for a second time. Preliminary Central Election Commission data based on 75% of ballots found a majority of voters supported the reform, although total turnout was just above 30%. The constitutional reform will make the political system of the Central Asian nation similar to that of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Meanwhile, a poll commissioned by the United States-based International Republican Institute and published this month found Japarov was by far the most trusted politician in the country. Well, votes were counted, but the results were clear. In Ecuador, banker Guillermo Lasso pulled off a surprise win in Sunday's presidential runoff against socialist economist Andres Arauz. Lasso secured 52.5% of the vote versus 47.5% for Arauz, according to the National Electoral Council. However, Lasso still faces a challenging task to restart a sluggish economy, struggling after last year's coronavirus outbreak, which spiked in recent months as vaccination efforts stalled. Peruvians queued up in long lines on Sunday to elect their new president. Presidential candidates Keiko Fujimori, the daughter of jailed former President Alberto Fujimori, and Rafael Lopez Aliaga also cast their votes. The election for a new president and Congress comes against the backdrop of a new and fierce second wave of the corona pandemic. Two contenders from opposite poles of the political spectrum could face off in the second round in June. Hernando de Soto, a liberal economist, and leftist Professor Pedro Castillo have both edged to the front of the pack following late gains in support. Nearly 25.2 million eligible voters in the country voted to elect their president. Wearing masks at polling booths was mandatory, while voters were also being asked to bring their own pens to mark ballots as in a bid to prevent COVID-19. Election officials in the Central African country of Chad began counting ballots immediately after the polls closed in Sunday's tense presidential elections. Chad voted on Sunday to choose a president in an election that is likely to see incumbent President Idriss Deby coming to power for the sixth time after ruling the country for almost 3 decades. The 68-year-old leader is one of Africa's longest-serving leaders and an ally of Western powers in the fight against Islamic militants in the West and Central Africa. This time, he is facing 6 rivals, including former Prime Minister Albert Pahimi Padakse. Chad is facing severe economic and socio-political crisis. The voting took place on Sunday amid violent protests and anti-government demonstrations in capital N'Djamena. The Election Commission has until April 25th to announce provisional results. And it appears to be election season everywhere. Counting of the ballot also began in Benin, a day after the West African nation voted to choose a new president in an election that was widely boycotted by some opposition parties over pre-election violence. Some also objected to President Patrice Talon's quest for a second term, accusing him of taking a U-turn on a pledge he made as a candidate in 2016 to serve only 1 term. The polls also took place amid violent protests that have tormented the nation for days. Amid this, Talon, a multi-millionaire cotton magnate, faces 2 relatively little-known opposition candidates. Many accused Talon's government of detaining the prominent opposition leaders on terrorism-related charges, accusations that the government has constantly denied. Provisional results of the first round of the election are expected by April 13th. And in the eastern Caribbean island of St. Vincent, more people fled their homes as La Soufriere volcano rumbled loudly for the 3rd day. The La Soufriere volcano erupted after decades of inactivity and pumped dark clouds of ash into the air. Rumbling noises continued to emanate from the volcano, with ash coating rooftops, cars and roads in Kingstown. More than 3,200 people were evacuated. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves said it is unclear how much more ash the volcano would vent out. St. Vincent has not experienced volcanic activity since 1979, when an eruption caused approximately $100 million in damages. And Sudan on Sunday marked 2 years since the overthrow of former President Omar al-Bashir and erupted in violence. Over the course of the new government's interim rule under Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok, Sudan took steps to normalize relations with Israel in a deal brokered with the help of the US. Earlier this year, Sudan's central bank sharply devalued the currency, announcing a new regime to unify official and black market exchange rates in an effort to overcome a crippling economic crisis and access debt relief. The change was a key reform demanded by foreign donors and the International Monetary Fund, but was delayed for months as shortages of basic goods and rapid inflation complicated a fragile political transition. And here in News on the Hour, it's time for a short break, but more news coming up on the other side. Stay tuned and keep watching DD India.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now. The changing world of news. Headlines that you wake up to. News that shapes your day. Stories that matter to you. The latest and most accurate updates. A fresh start to a new day. The Breakfast News, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. on DD India. Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back. You're watching News on the Hour, and it's time now for our regular update on COVID-19 from across the globe. More than 13 crore 66 lakh people worldwide have so far tested positive for COVID, while over 10 crore 98 lakh have recovered from the coronavirus. The deadly virus has so far claimed over 29 lakh 49,000 lives globally. The United States continues to be the worst affected country by the pandemic. So far, more than 3 crore 19 lakh people have tested positive for COVID in the US. More than 5 lakh 75,000 have died of COVID in the country. Meanwhile, England is to begin phase 2 of easing lockdown restrictions. All shops are set to open along with gyms, spas, and they are allowed to open, including hairdressers, beauty salons and other close contact services. Restaurants and pubs are allowed to serve food and drinks to customers. Sitting outdoors, gyms and spas can reopen, as can zoos, theme parks, libraries and community centres. Members of the same household can take a holiday in England in self-contained accommodation. The British administration had set 17th of May as a target date for complete easing of restrictions. The European Medicines Agency has said that it had found a possible link between AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine and reports of very rare cases of blood clots in people who had received the shot. The finding comes after more than a dozen countries suspended use of the vaccine in Europe, after reports linking it to a brain blood clotting disorder in a dozen few recipients. The EMA announcement is a fresh setback for the vaccine, which is by far the cheapest and most high volume so far. After extensive use in Europe and UK, the vaccine is said to be the front runner of vaccination programs in developing countries. However, both the EMA and the World Health Organization have stated that the benefits outweigh the risks of the vaccine, as similar clots can be caused by many other commonly used drugs and medicines such as birth control pills. French actors Etienne Coquerel and Isabelle Cagna took to perform behind window of a fashion boutique as COVID restrictions deprived them of stage performances. The actors dubbed their performance as an act of defiance to insist their presence even amidst persisting lockdowns. As the COVID restrictions require non-essential shops like boutiques to remain closed, the owner was quick to offer it as a stage to support art. Theatres, cinemas, art galleries and other cultural spaces have remained closed in France since October as the country grapples with a third coronavirus wave sweeping across Europe. The Civil Aviation Authority of Bangladesh has decided to suspend international flights for a week starting from the 14th of April, with the commencement of the hard lockdown in the country. CAAB Chairman Air Vice Marshal M. Mofidur Rahman told the media in Dhaka on Sunday that there will be no restrictions imposed on the movement of chartered flights, cargo flights, air ambulances and special flights. Domestic flights have already been suspended in the country ever since the lockdown was announced by the government to control the spread of corona in the country on April 5th. Meanwhile, Bangladesh reported the highest number of COVID-19 deaths in the country since March last year on Sunday. According to the Directorate General of Health Services, 78 people died on Sunday due to the coronavirus, taking the death toll to 9,739 in the country. Chairperson of the main opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party, Begum Khalida Zia, was diagnosed with corona infection on Sunday. And now news from the world of business. Indian indices started the week on a lower note, with all sectors witnessing broad-based selling as concerns over rising COVID-19 cases in the country and fears of lockdown in certain states weighed on sentiment. Losses in banks, autos and metal stocks dragged the most. Domestic equity market benchmarks BSE Sensex and Nifty 50 were trading over 2.8% down today. BSE Sensex gave up 48,236 levels, plunging over 1,400 points, while the broader Nifty 50 index fell below 14,450. Futures contracts tied to the major US stock indices ticked lower during early morning trade on Monday, suggesting Wall Street could see muted trading on Monday after reaching fresh records last week. Dow futures lost 90 points, while contracts tied to the S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 also traded in negative territory. And the Indian rupee slipped in early trade today, opening 22 paise lower at 74.96 per dollar against Friday's close of 74.74 amid weakness seen in the domestic equity market. On April 9th, the Indian rupee ended lower at 74.74 per dollar versus Thursday's close at 74.6. Time now for another very short break. But more news up ahead on News on the Hour. Stay with us.
Namaste India.
Namaste land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind. Zari India.
Salam India. Namaste India.
नमस्कार भारत.
Mui
Nous
India.
sommes land.
Nahnu hunud.
India.
Ma Hindi hasti.
Mung Hindianu.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back after the break. Time now for some sports news. Hideki Matsuyama held off the field to win the Masters golf tournament by one stroke at the Augusta National and became the first Japanese man to claim a major title. Matsuyama had a 4-shot lead heading into the final day and despite some nervy moments on Sunday, shot a 1 over 73 to win on 10 under par. American debutant Will Zalatoris was his closest challenger at 9 under. In winning the famous golf tournament, Matsuyama became the first Japanese man to win a golf major, ending an almost 4-year winless drought. As is tradition, last year's winner, Dustin Johnson, who failed to make the cut this year after suffering his own struggles, presented Matsuyama with his green jacket, which etched him into Masters and golfing folklore. And in sports, more sports news in football. Atletico Madrid went back to the top of La Liga by only 1 point after labouring to a draw against Real Betis. Earlier, defending champions Real Madrid had gone top on Saturday after beating third-place Barcelona 2-1. Diego Simeone's Atletico, who were 10 points clear at the end of January, have only won 3 of their past 11 games in all competitions and look to be running out of steam. After 30 games, Atletico have 67 points, while Real Madrid are close on the heels at 66 points. Barcelona sit third on the table with 65 points. And Manchester United inflicted further damage on Tottenham's hopes of making the Premier League's top 4 as they came from behind to secure a fully deserved 3-1 victory. Spurs went into this game knowing victory would keep them in touch with the Champions League places. But another colourless performance led to what could be an expensive defeat. United's sense of injustice was increased when Sun put Spurs ahead before the break, but the visitors recovered impressively for a win that leaves them 11 points behind leaders Manchester City with a game in hand. United's host Granada on Thursday in the Europa League quarter-final second leg, holding a 2-0 lead. They then play Burnley at home in the Premier League on Sunday. Spurs visit Everton in the Premier League on Friday. And Jesse Lingard continued his stunning form with West Ham, scoring twice in the first half to set the Hammers on course for a crucial victory over fellow champions League hopefuls Leicester City. The two sides came into the weekend occupying the last two Champions League spots before wins for Chelsea and Liverpool on Saturday nudged West Ham down to 6th place. West Ham are away at Newcastle before Leicester play Southampton in the FA Cup semi-finals on Sunday. More on football. Gabriel Martinelli scored in his first start since January as Arsenal ended a run of 4 games without a win with a 3-0 victory over the Premier League's bottom club, Sheffield United. The win, complete with a first clean sheet in 15 games, lists Arsenal above Leeds and Aston Villa and up to 9th in the table with 45 points. Sheffield United remained rooted to the bottom, 18 points from safety, with just 21 left to play for. With their woeful goal difference, a loss at Wolves next Saturday will all but confirm their relegation. Arsenal take on Slavia Prague in that all-important Europa League second leg on Thursday, while Sheffield United are next in action on Saturday in a league game at Wolves. And now on to some news from the world of entertainment. The British Academy of Film and Television Arts ceremony was held virtually over 2 nights due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. With the nominees joining in by video due to the COVID pandemic, US recession drama Nomadland, about a community of van dwellers, continued its winning streak in the run-up to the Oscars. Nomadland, starring Frances McDormand as a widowed woman who juggles temporary work with a van-dwelling existence, won for Best Film, Best Director, Best Leading Actress and Best Cinematography. 39-year-old Zhao, that's Chloe Zhao, is only the second woman to win in the directing category at the BAFTAs. The Best Leading Actor award went to Anthony Hopkins for playing a person with dementia in Florian Zeller's The Father. The movie also won the Best Adapted Screenplay prize. 83-year-old Anthony Hopkins described winning Best Actor as wonderful and unexpected. Hopkins portrayed a man with dementia and starred alongside Olivia Colman in The Father, which also took home the award for Adapted Screenplay. Meanwhile, BAFTA also paid tribute to Britain's Prince Philip, Edith Bowman and Dermot Leary. Presenting the awards ceremony, said that the Duke of Edinburgh occupies a special place in BAFTA history. And the 74th British Academy Film Awards, that's BAFTA, also paid tributes to late Bollywood actors Rishi Kapoor and Irfan Khan. The two actors passed away last year. In memoriam tributes, their work appreciated from Indian film screens to a much wider audience. It was an emotional moment for fans as they took to Twitter to mourn the loss of these actors. And let's now take a look at the list of BAFTA Awards 2021. Best Film, Nomadland. Best Actor Sir Anthony Hopkins for The Father. Best Director Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. Best Leading Actress Frances McDormand for Nomadland. Outstanding British Film Promising Young Woman. Best Documentary My Octopus Teacher. Best Animated Film Soul. Best Cinematography Nomadland. British Short Film The Present Farah Nabulsi. Production Design Mank Donald Graham Butt. Costume Design Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Best Film Nomadland. Best Actor Sir Anthony Hopkins for The Father. Best Director Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. And I'm moving on to other news. In Nepal, tens of thousands of devotees gathered in the city of Bhaktapur to celebrate the new year. Devotees flocked to the Taumadi Square to take part in the Biska Jatra fair, where idol of Lord Bhairav was carried to the chariot and devotees indulged in a tug of war. The country has witnessed a spike in the number of coronavirus cases, with more than 280,000 cases registered and 3,040 deaths. And well, that's all we have for you in this edition of News on the Hour. We'll be back again tomorrow at the same time on DD India. Meanwhile, news and updates continue, so stay tuned. Here's a quick reminder, however, as you step out of your homes today, don't forget to wear a mask. It's the best protection against COVID-19. So wear a mask, practice social distancing, and wash your hands regularly. Meanwhile, all those who are eligible, please go in for vaccination. That's all for now from me. Namaskar.